Hi guys and welcome back to the Footy Fans channel. This is episode 8 of the Footy Fans podcast, and today we're joined by a very special guest in Ryan Cosson. How are you doing, Ryan?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Great, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. So to begin with, if you could just let the listeners know who you are, who you play for, your position, what level you play at, and a bit about your footballing background, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no worries. So my name's Ryan Cosson. I'm currently a central defender who plays for Hastag United. We're in the Essex Senior League, which is officially step 5 in the football pyramid. So that's technically classed as semi-professional. And hopefully we're going to progress on to bigger and better things in the coming years.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So what would you say is your first footballing memory, the first thing you remember football-wise?
Kicking a football in the living room with my dad, to be honest. For like Christmas and birthdays, I would get all the stuff that kids now probably don't get. So I'm a big Liverpool fan, so I'd have a Liverpool football, a Liverpool water bottle, lunchbox, calendar, pencil case, you name it. If it had Liverpool on it, I had it. But in terms of playing, I was probably a bit of a late starter. I remember I was about 6 or 7 watching the 2001 FA Cup where Michael Owen scored 2 against Arsenal. And that was really when I started to watch football more, and I didn't start playing until under 8s, whereas most kids start at like 4 or 5 years old. So I didn't start playing until I was about 8 years old. Yeah,
wow. And from that, obviously, that first memory from a very young age, how has your career progressed from then to now playing for Hastag? So what's that journey been like?
Yeah, so I've been really lucky. I was really lucky to have a real good few years of youth football. So I used to play for a local team called Buckhurst Hill from 11 to about 15, and I can talk more about that later if need be. But then I managed to get a move to Barnet. So we used to travel to and from the High a few times a week. Played for some really good managers at Barnet at under 16s, and then senior football wise, I've played in step 4 for the likes of Averley, Barking, Brentwood for a short stint as well. And now drop down to Hastag.
Great. And how did that opportunity come about at Hastag? How did that all occur?
Yeah, sure. So it's probably how a lot of these moves come about. I played against some of the boys a few times. Joe Keefe, the coach, he actually tried to sign me a few years ago as well when he was the manager at Tilbury. And I think at the time, this was going back to when probably March early this year, Devs, the manager, needed to. I think he wanted to bring in a few names and wanted to bulk out the squad a bit heading into what would have been the defining part of the season and the title race.
Yeah.
But with all of what happened with COVID and everything, we quickly went into a lockdown, which brought a halt to the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, how did Hastag handle that whole lockdown period? Because obviously they were playing very, very well, and obviously it must have been really difficult for everyone to handle not being able to finish the season. So how did they handle that?
Yeah, it was. I think everyone was frustrated. There was us and a couple of other teams that were almost neck and neck in terms of points. I think points per game we had the advantage, but there was still 8 or 9 games left to play. I think we felt we could have gone on and won all of those games to get the promotion we wanted, but at the end of the day, it was out of our hands. So we just have to do the business again this year, and hopefully come into the season we'll be in a good position again.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you've said you're a defender, but what players do you aim to base your game off, and who inspires you?
That's a good question. This is probably, I think if you ask any defender, I think John Terry's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Certainly being English, he's one of the country's best ever defenders in my opinion. But what's really strange about John Terry, when you ask when you get asked what he's particularly good at, I don't think any big attributes come to mind. Like, he wasn't the quickest, he wasn't as quick as Rio, he probably wasn't as strong as someone like Sol Campbell, but I think he was just a proper leader. He'd done the simple things, scored goals as well, and he was always there to be relied on, and look how obviously successful he was at Chelsea. So he's definitely one. Others that I think honourable mentions, being a Liverpool fan myself, you can look at Jamie Carragher, someone that shows desire, never say die attitude. Some games you watch him, he could barely walk. He was never the prettiest defender. he's definitely one for a lot of new footballers now to learn from, because those type of players back then, there isn't many of them around anymore.
No, definitely not. And do you, obviously looking up to them, do you sometimes try to mimic them in games and stuff? Their sort of traits, do you mimic that?
Yeah, well, despite being nowhere near as good as any of them, which is a shame. I think, especially nowadays, you look at someone like Van Dijk. He's an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender, and I think should be considered alongside, probably not better, but definitely alongside some of the best names. And I think the one example to bring to mind, I don't know if you've seen it, but against Tottenham last year when he showed Sissoko one way and shielded off the pass to Son.
Yeah.
Just something as really simple as that, but it just can be so effective, and to really bring that into other parts of the game, I think it's really good.
Yeah, so clever how even in a moment where football runs in milliseconds, and something that clever that can impact the game, it can happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's so subtle as well. You'd never really notice it, but the fact it was 2-on-1 and it was so obvious what he was doing, it is, yeah, as I say, very, very clever.
Yeah, intelligent plays, very, very good. So, who is the best player you've ever played against and with? Obviously, you've played with some big names, but who would you say tops both those lists?
Oh, good question. I think the two played with are easy ones, so I'll do them afterwards. But played against, I think it's Jordan Ibe. When I was 16, when I was 16 at Barnet, I think he's my age. He was the same age, or he might have even been playing a year up. He played for Wickham, and he was just unbelievable. He played like a winger / forward, and he just absolutely rinsed our whole team. He was strong, he was quick, he was so quick, you couldn't even get near him. And I think he might have even scored like a hat-trick against us or something, but it was just one of them where you come off and you were just scratching your head thinking, I could do nothing about that. He was just too good.
Yeah, well, yeah, it says, he plays for Derby now, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. I think he's had some problems. He was at Liverpool at one point, and I remember when he signed for Liverpool, I thought he was going to be like the next big thing. But I think I don't know if he's had trouble off the pitch or whatever. But he went to Bournemouth, didn't he? He went from Liverpool to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's kind of not hit the heights that I think people were thinking he would.
Yeah, well, that's great. And what about that? So that was against, yeah?
Yeah, that was against. Played with. These two are easy. There was a guy called, again, this is all back to my youth days.
Yeah.
A guy called Woodrow. I think he's at Barnsley now. Or no, he might not be at Barnsley. He might have moved on from Barnsley. I might be wrong. But he joined our team, and I remember our first game. He come in and it was like a friendly, or I think pre-season, and he come in and he scored 6 goals.
Wow.
And we were just thinking, bloody, like, what have we got here? Like, what a player!
Yeah.
And I think in like 1 year he scored about 70 odd goals for us. He went on to Luton, I think it was, and then he broke the transfer record for a conference player going to a league team. So he went from Luton to Fulham, and he's been injured recently, but he's been banging in goals lately. I think it might be Barnsley. I might be wrong. It might be somebody else. I think he might have moved from there. But yeah, Cauley Woodrow definitely won. And another close friend of mine, Jack Payne, who was a really close friend back in the day, and our dads are still pally now. But he's been promoted with Huddersfield. He's won the league with Blackburn. He's won the league with Southend. I think he's had like 3 promotions in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Yeah, do you find it quite motivating knowing that you've played with these sort of players? Does that sort of inspire you to do as well as you can?
Probably not so much anymore. It's probably more of a realisation that if maybe a few years back, probably realised that we were a bit closer to making it than we probably realised. And I think when you're young, there's always a kind of view that, oh my God, like professionals are, and of course they are in like the Premiership, but I think you work so hard as a youngster to get to like the lower leagues and think, oh, I've not quite made it, when in actual fact, if you just keep at it, you can. And I obviously fell short. I never really made it professionally, but a lot, there was a good 5, 6, maybe even more than that, players that I've played with or played against that have gone on to make it. And when you actually think back to it, they weren't of that different standard to me those years ago. They just put in the extra effort and the extra yards that they needed to. And then that's what, in a way, I'm kind of a bit gutted that I've never done that.
Yeah. So the next question, what is the biggest obstacle you've ever had to overcome?
Yeah, okay. When I was at Barnet, I think, so when I was at Barnet at 16, throughout most of my youth career, we had such a good team, and we were all like really reluctant to leave and go to a professional club, just because we felt if we went too young it just wouldn't happen. So we all kind of just waited, and we went when we was 16. And I had a manager called Richard Marchena, I think his name was Richard Marchena, something like that. I think he was a Spanish guy, and I really got on with him. During all pre-season, I've done really well. Trained with the under-18s, played for the under-18s a few times. Everything was going really well. Well, in the first game of the season, we played Colchester away. I remember travelling up there. Another mate of mine, George Sykes, who joined Barnet at the same time as me, we both travelled up. And about 10 minutes into the second half, I went into a tackle and broke my collarbone. So I missed, God knows how many games, 2-3 months worth of games, and was essentially out till about Christmas. But what happened in the meantime was Richard, who I got on so well with, the manager, he had left. There was a big restructure at Barnet, and another guy come in, and for whatever reason, which I still don't know why. I'd love to know why, really, but he just didn't like me, or we just didn't get on. I don't know if that was as a player, as a person, or what. I really don't know. But it got to about March, and I just wasn't enjoying football anymore. So I remember saying to my dad after one of the games that, Dad, I can't do this anymore. I want to leave. So we sat down with the development director at Barnet, and I just said to him straight after the game, I want to be released, and I had a good 5 or 6 months off. So I kind of just fell out of love with the game a little bit, I think.
Wow, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think it was just getting back to doing what I enjoyed, and I think where I did have such a good group of friends and good youth team, I kind of lost that when I went to Barnet. And I think it is a different realisation of when you do take a step up in seriousness, in different level. And I think I just wanted to get back to the enjoyment side rather than trying to be really competitive and trying to become professional and try and push that side of it. I just wanted the enjoyment back, and I think that's quite good for young people, not to chase it all the time, not to chase becoming professional or chase this club and chase that club. Just enjoy it, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah, how long did it take for you to get that enjoyment back? Did it take a while, or did it come back as soon as you started focusing on what the real meaning of playing football was?
Yeah, so that was towards the end of my under 16 season, or what was under 16s. I'm not sure if it's the same now, but the under 17s and under 18s youth setups now, I think they're still the same. They kind of play as 1 year, so it's an under 18s team, and then you can have both years play. It's like college. So if both your 17s and 18s play in the same team. So I joined Brentwood Town, which is my local team now, actually, where I live now. We had a really competitive season that year, and again, I think just playing games, training well, it just brought the enjoyment back. Yeah,
that's great. Was it a big relief getting it back, obviously, after such an unfortunate time before?
Yeah. It's, as I say, I think if you look at players that in the Premier League, and if they're not playing well or they're not enjoying it, it shows. And if that means they have to move abroad, or like you look at all these players that move to Barcelona from Liverpool or Arsenal or whoever, they move to Barcelona, and it might not necessarily, the grass isn't always greener, is it? It's not always the best thing to do, and they've give up all of the good times that they could have had before. So I think it's a little bit of that. Just maybe it was such a relief to be able to get that back again, and still only being young. I was only 17, 18, so there's still so much ahead of me at that stage.
Yeah, definitely. So the next one, what would you say is your biggest sporting achievement, and why is it that?
This is hard. I think this is really hard one to answer, because of how much I enjoyed and how successful my younger days being a footballer, as in 12 to about 15, 16 was. Like
Yeah.
our team, we won county cups, we won leagues, we won not just leagues, but we won doubles, trebles. We represented Essex. We then won a competition as Essex against other counties. We represented South England. We went. We played like national finals at Leicester Stadium. So what was then called the Walker Stadium. It's something different now, isn't it? I can't think of the name now. So we played at Leicester Stadium. So for me, all of my youth memories, and even some of the guys that have made it, and I still speak to now, we always say how good those times were. So they'll be really hard to beat. In terms of senior football, though, when I joined Averley a couple of years ago, I come in at around Christmas.
Yeah.
We'd made a couple of signings, and Averley were only, I think they were second or third from bottom of the league, and we had about 15, 20 games to turn the season around, and we actually ended up finishing 9th or 10th. So we had a really, really good end of the season, and obviously it's not just my doing. We had a really good bunch of players, but I think in terms of like the form table at one point for the back part of the season, we would have been like third or fourth. So yeah, it was really, really good end to the season. But hopefully, ask me that question again at the end of this season, and hopefully I can say that the Hastag winning the league and getting promoted is up there.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be unbelievable to see. That'll be great. So, talking of Hastag, what is a typical day like as a footballer for them? Like, how from the minute you wake up when you go to sleep, how does that whole day go, or does it vary?
It's different. You got to remember. So Hastag are only semi-pro.
Yeah.
So most of the players, me included, we've all got other jobs. So we all work Monday to Friday typically. Some of the younger lads might not, and they might train a little bit more. But my work days are from 8 till 5, Monday to Friday. We have training twice a week. So normally Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've actually got a Zoom session a bit later tonight. Games are Saturday afternoon. Games are always at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, and sometimes, well, now it's twice a week. So maybe we'll have one training session and 2 games. But otherwise, we all have to look after ourselves. I think what is evident, whether you play professionally or semi-professionally, to get ahead of the people you're playing against, you've got to do more than what's required. So whether that be do more training, do some running, weight training, eat healthy, yoga. We've even been doing Pilates on Zoom sessions. So there's always something more that you can do. Yeah.
Is it more independent than, obviously you're provided with some stuff, but is most of it just for you to get on with?
Yeah, well, because I think that the stuff you do on your own, it allows you to then be better in training when you're with the group. And then when you're with the group, by you being better, you're pushing your teammates to do better, and vice versa. You don't want to go to training and then it takes you half an hour to get into it because you haven't had a run in a few days. You want to hit the ground running when you train as hard as you can, and hopefully then that'll mean the training improves and then the games will improve as well.
Yeah, so what do you like to do individually, like gym-wise, sort of individual sessions? What do you do to prepare yourself for these training sessions and stuff?
I love going to the gym. I do really love going to the gym. I think it's what's good about the gym is that it's all year round, as in it doesn't have to be sunny for you to go to the gym. You're not outside in the cold. In the summer, I do really like running, especially in the off season. I love to run, especially if it's nice and sunny. I run with my top off and get a bit excited with that. But otherwise, I like most sports, to be honest. So if there's a chance for me to play tennis, or I've just ordered a bike this week, so I'm going to do a bit more cycling.
Yeah.
So anything to get me out and to get. I love doing activities. So I think most people do. If you're into football, if you're into a sport, you tend to like other sports as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I play football almost every day, but when I'm not, like cycling is very good. And yeah, any sports are sort of enjoyable. When it comes with football, anything sort of goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anything to keep active. I know it sounds a bit corny, but
yeah,
it is fun, isn't it?
It's true. Yeah, it's just there's always something to do when you're active. It gets whatever you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Useful for life.
Exactly.
obviously, have you played a Hashtag United game yet?
So when we joined, I joined with Reese in March. We had first lockdown. I then we had a pre-season friendly, and then the very next Wednesday, I got injured. So I've been injured for the best part of 12 weeks, where my hamstring tore away from the bone.
Oh.
So it was a completely freak injury, one that I've never experienced anything like before. I've broken, as I mentioned, I broke a collarbone. I've done my knee ligament. I've only been injured like twice in my whole life, and then this is just it was such a freak one at training. And yeah, I've been out ever since. So I'm hoping by the time we can go back in a couple of weeks, I'll be ready, and I can tell the manager that I'll finally be available and can fight for a spot. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So obviously you haven't had the opportunity to play a competitive game yet, but what do you do to deal with pressure before games where you are nervous?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think a lot of my old managers will probably be able to vouch for this, but I think I tend to play better in the pressurised and more high profile games. I'm not really sure why. It's probably a mix of playing with a bit of nerves, a bit of excitement, but yeah, I tend to enjoy it. I think with the big games, you'd always look forward to them.
Yeah.
If you're a Liverpool player, you'll be looking forward to playing Man United or Chelsea all week. So when it finally comes round to it, all that excitement has built up, and I think it's good for you. I think if you don't think about the game all week and then you show up, you're probably not going to play as well. So I just think you'd much more be looking, as I say, look at the Liverpool analogy. You'd much rather look forward to playing United and Chelsea every week than, no disrespect to a team like Sheffield United, but it's just more competitive. You're playing against better players.
Yeah.
Probably a better side of your game will probably come out, and I think it's no different at whatever level you play at.
Yeah, definitely. Were you always, because obviously when you're younger you might not see it as the way you do now, but have you always sort of viewed nerves as a good thing?
Not all the time. I've played in a lot of like cup finals and big games, and normally I can't sleep the day before a big game, which ends up being a bit counterproductive because then you wake up and you're a bit tired. But yeah, as you get older, you tend to be able to control it a bit more. But yeah, I'd say definitely to anyone, even you and other people listening, if there's a game that you're nervous about, that tends to be a good thing. Just don't worry about it too much and just play, hopefully with some enjoyment, and it will all come out good in the end.
Yeah, it shows you care, really, doesn't it? If you're not fussed about it, that's not the best.
Exactly.
I think being
exactly
shows you're up for it and you care. So I think it's good.
Exactly that. No, yeah, well put.
Perfect. So obviously you said that you're going to start having more frequent games, sometimes 2 a week. So what do you do to recover after a tough match or training session?
That question's definitely probably an easier one to answer now than it would have been before, because growing up, not a lot, to be honest. I think when you're young, you probably take it, what's the right word? You take for granted that your body can recover, and like you just said, you're out every day playing football and you won't notice little injuries. You'll just be out there playing again, and it'll all just roll into one. But I think certainly now, as I'm getting a little bit older, I'm 26 now, which people don't think is very old, but in football terms, 26, I'm getting on a little bit, and the recovery aspect becomes a bit more important. So a lot in pre-season, I'll have a lot of ice baths, always stretching, doing little strength exercises as well, yoga, drinking lots of water, running as well, loosen up your legs in between games and training. But certainly the aches and pains definitely last a bit longer, and the little niggles become more of a serious thing as you get older. And look, my first ever, touch wood, and hopefully my last ever, but first time I've had a muscular injury ever. So I definitely need to be looking after myself a bit more.
Yeah, and on those recovery days, do you just relax, go on PS4, Xbox, or do you enjoy reading self-improvement mentality books or anything like that?
Yeah, so a mixture of all of them things. the job that I do, I work in an investments company, so I'm always looking to improve and broaden my knowledge in that. Aside from that, I've a lot of hobbies of playing other sports and watching a lot of football. I'm a massive Liverpool fan, so I'm always looking to not just watch it out of enjoyment, but also look at ways to improve that aspect as well. I do, and this is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have started to play a bit of Xbox as well in this lockdown, so you'll often find me on FIFA and maybe a bit of Warzone as well.
Yeah. And do you follow any specific diet, or just sort of do what feels good for your body?
Yeah, so definitely, again, similar to the last night, I'm definitely more conscious of it as I've got older. When I was younger, my diet used to be really bad. Like, as in, I didn't eat any vegetables. For some reason, I just didn't like vegetables. I went through a phase. Like, I used to eat everything till I was about 6 or 7. And then from 7 till I was like 17, 18 years old, I didn't eat any vegetables, which was really weird. But now, yeah, I'm always conscious of eating lots of fruit, lots of veg, eating at the right times, taking protein, not eating many takeaways, no fast food, anything like that. So I really wish I was into that more as a youngster, because I could have been so much healthier and fitter for it.
Yeah. Do you have any supplements like protein powder or any like vitamins to supplement your diet and recovery?
Yeah, so if I'm in during this, I won't necessarily take much creatine during the football season, because it tends to hold water weight. But I take creatine in the summer when I'm in the gym. I've got some omega-3 tablets, so they're like fish oil supplements. Got daily vitamins, protein as well. Yeah, it differs, to be honest.
Yeah, and so you've just said you sort of tend to steer clear of takeaways and stuff like that, but how often would you say you have a cheat meal to reward yourself?
It depends, because I live in a flat with my girlfriend, and certainly in lockdown, it's got so boring cooking the same things over and over again. But maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Once every 2 weeks, probably.
Fair enough. What would you say are your biggest strengths and weaknesses?
Probably in terms of playing, probably my reading of the game, my organisation and leading.
Yeah.
I think back to the John Terry aspect. I wish I was as good with both feet as John Terry was. But I can't spray 80-yard passes with both feet like he could. But yeah, I'd like to think, having played at a good level for certainly more of my youth days and still now, I can play a little bit. A lot of defenders are known for just heading and volleying, but I'd like to think I can pick a pass and keep the ball well as well.
Yeah.
But certainly, yeah, the leading aspect and organisation, I would say, are my strongest.
Yeah, and what about your weak points? What would you say they are?
I'm definitely getting slower as I'm getting older, which is a bit annoying, because I think that's probably why my hamstrings ended up going, because probably just not looking after it. But I think as well, when you stop practicing as much as you used to, you do lose certain attributes. Like a few years ago, I'd be really, really good at spraying balls with my left foot and playing left-sided centre-back. I think where I don't practice it as much anymore, you do lose it without even noticing. So I probably need to do that a little bit more again, I would say.
Yeah, and apart from practicing, obviously, do you do anything to improve your pace and stuff like that, or just sort of just accept it and try to make other aspects stronger to counterpart them?
No, well, I think probably I've probably been okay in the fact that I'm not as centre back at the level we played. Centre backs aren't ever really gifted with pace, so I think certainly there is an aspect of where I do read the game very well and where I do have good positioning sense on the pitch. That probably does help, but it's probably been at the detriment where I then haven't got quicker, because I know that I can make up for it with other parts of my game. Yeah. Having said that, I have done in the last couple of years. So when I was young, we used to have a coach called Darren Braithwaite. He's an Olympic sprinter. He used to be in the Great British Relay team. So I regularly meet up with him, normally in the summer, to do a bit of pre-season work and get a bit of sharpness back. And he does like private one-on-one sessions with me, He's brilliant. He's absolutely amazing. He definitely makes me a few yards quicker every summer by just doing those sessions.
That's incredible. Wow. What would you say are your short-term and long-term targets, football-wise?
Certainly, short-term is be injury-free. I've never really had a... When I broke my collarbone, it was easy because I could see the bone sticking out my shoulder and I couldn't lift up my arm. Whereas the one that I've had already, it's a really, really strange one. So I think for me, it's been so hard to accept being injured, going to the game, supporting the boys and not being able to play. So for me, I just want to get fit and I just want to get back into the mix of being able to be a part of the team. More long term, I hope we can actually finish the season this year. Despite all of what's going on, I hope we can be competitive and hopefully win the league. And then let's see what next year holds in a tougher league with tougher teams around us. And because Hastag have got a very good team. Like I coming to Hastag, I was a little bit apprehensive and not really sure on how good they'd be, but we've got some unbelievable players. I don't want to name any names and embarrass anyone, but there are some unbelievable players. We're definitely would be competitive in the league above, I think, and we'll give that a good go as well, having played in that league already.
100%. And how difficult is it? You know, obviously Hastag had a great FA Cup run, but obviously sitting on the sidelines and having to watch, how difficult was that?
Funny enough, so whenever I've not been able to play, which has been very rare for other teams, I've never really taken an interest in how the team does. When I'm not playing, I'm a little bit selfish in the fact I'd want the team to lose. But Hastag has been the complete opposite. I tended, and because I've been out for a few months now, I have actually become a bit of a fan. Well, I've definitely become a fan, and some of my friends come to the games. And my dad's always at the game. My brother comes to the game, so I was always in the stand cheering on the boys. It's been tough watching and not being a part of it, and missing out on the banter in the changing room, and not being in that match day squad text that everyone gets sent, not seeing your name in the squad. That's been tough, but it's what comes with playing football at whatever level. You've always got to take the highs and the lows, and I've had a lot of really good highs, so just got to accept this low and hopefully it doesn't last too long.
It's something to look forward to, obviously, watching your team play and being able to think, that'll be me soon. That must be something that keeps you going, motivated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got such a good group of boys, really good group of management team. The whole club is run brilliantly, and every single part of the club, whether it be the fans, the people that work for the club, the volunteers, everyone, it's a great place to be. So it makes you even more gutted that you can't contribute on the pitch yet, but I hope they know as soon as I can, I will be. Yeah,
that's great. And final question, what are the 3 most important pieces of advice you have for young players aspiring to become a professional footballer?
The first one is it's a long road. It's a long process. It's not weeks, it's not months. It's years and years of hard work. And look, I didn't quite make it. I didn't make it as a professional. But even semi-professional football now, it's improved so much over the last few years. So you've got to be really willing to put the hard work in if you want to make any sort of living from football. What else? 2, don't be discouraged, I would say. When I was 8 years old, starting out to play, I used to go to every game and was a sub. Every single week, everyone is there at some point. Everyone has to be a team has got 20 players in now, so there's got to be someone that's a sub. I used to stand there in the freezing cold, waiting for my opportunity, and I think when you finally get it, you've got to be ready to take it. So I think don't be discouraged, whether that be setbacks from injuries, playing well, playing badly. You've just got to have a strong, positive mindset to be able to bounce back and do your best when you can.
And what about your final one?
Final one. Probably you might have had this answer before, but I think football, the game of football is mostly just people's opinion. I think you see some players how they sit on the bench for a club in the Premier League, and then they move to AC Milan and score 35 goals in a season. Every single person in football has an opinion, some good, some bad. I think I would try not to get too tied up in the politics and the opinions of absolutely everybody. I would just find some people or a close group of people that you really confide in, whether that be a coach or a mentor that you trust. For me, it was always my dad. He was always super critical. People would say that I played really well. He would still say that I didn't play great and would need to improve this and this. So for me, definitely, it's just be careful of everybody's opinion. Everyone's going to have an opinion, but listen to yourself, the people you care about, and don't get too tied up in what everyone thinks, because otherwise you'll just beat yourself up all the time.
100%. Everyone's going to have different views, and that was the same with somebody that came on previously. He played for the youth team a few years ago, and they weren't a fan, and he got released, but then he came back a few years later and they loved him, he fit in well, and now he's back playing football for them. And it was just the difference between one coach's opinion and another, and it really shows that just because one person might say you're not good enough that's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, and look, I've done this as well, people in football aren't, you've got to just try not to make it personal, and a manager is there to manage the team, and effectively if a manager likes a certain player, it doesn't necessarily mean he has to be better than any other player. It's just his opinion, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion in life as well. Actually, that probably goes to more than just football.
100%. Yeah, they're great pieces of advice. Thanks very much, and thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. Anytime. No, I'm glad I could help.
So guys, if you did enjoy the video, please make sure to give it a like. Make sure to follow Ryan on Instagram. And do you have any other social medias that you'd like to share?
No, Instagram's the main one. That'd be great. Thank you, mate.
And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you in the next one.